Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
The creepiest real thing to happen to you. This can be paranormal, near-death experience, close call, etc. The only requirement is that it had to have happened to you. I'll start with a paranormal one. Be me. Be 15. Laying in bed at around midnight when suddenly I found myself quite parched. All family members are in bed at this point, and all bedrooms are on the second floor. The kitchen is downstairs, so get up and go down to the fridge. Turn the corner into the kitchen, open the fridge, grab juice for a quick sippy. That's when I saw it. Looked to my left to see something out coming from around the corner. I can only describe it as something that appeared to be wearing a dirty brown sheet, like your typical spooky ghost. But the sheet was grotesque, muddled brown and covered it entirely. It moved out from around the corner silently, as if it was on a skateboard, just gliding forward. At this point, have the weirdest spurg reaction. Eyes go wide in silent horror and spin around 360 degrees on my heels. When I turn back around, it's gone, and I'm left alone in the kitchen holding the juice in shock. Yell for someone to come downstairs, but no one hears me. Eventually man up and summon the courage to go back to my room alone. To this day, I have no idea what I saw. I can't find images of it online. Can't find anyone else who has had a similar experience. Can't find any descriptions of spirits that match what I saw even remotely. If anyone has seen something like that, please tell me. That was the only time I saw it, and I haven't had the slightest inkling of it since. Around this time, my interest in was at its peak for my teenage years. I was meditating regularly and trying to make myself open to positive outside energy. After this happened, I closed myself off to everything and determined I was not ready to see more at that time. I wish there was more to say. Here's the most accurate description I can give. About 5 feet tall, appeared to be a hunched figure. It had a dirty-looking dark brown sheet covering it completely. That was it. Here's a crude layout map for context. Over 9,000 hours in paint.
The part that makes me believe you OP is where you say you screamed once and then just went back to bed and no one answered. That's a realistic response. Your family probably got woken up, but since you didn't scream again, they probably just said fuck it and went back to sleep. To add to the thread and to explain my point, there was a night when I was living at home with my family way back. My parents and my sister and I heard a loud bang that woke me up in the middle of the night. I thought I imagined it but had to piss. So I go out of bed into the hallway on the second floor, and then bang, I hear it again. Something was banging on the front door downstairs. Not banging, but like one loud smack. Very loud. I didn't even think it was paranormal. I honestly thought someone was breaking in trying to kick the door down. I was right at the top of the stairs and had a clear view down the winding staircase to the front door, but it was dark. I couldn't see through the frosted glass to the porch. But I slowly walked down, and when I was halfway down the stairs, bang a third time. And now I know I'm not dreaming, and it's for sure coming from the door. I can't believe no one is awake at this point, so I yell out, "Guys!" to try and wake my family. I was so scared and thought for sure someone was breaking in. I was young and frozen on the stairs for like 5 minutes. Doesn't sound long, but sit there and stare at the wall for 5 minutes, and then imagine doing that while being absolutely terrified. And there were no more sounds and no one woke up. I finally went down and looked outside and there was nothing. I went back. Upstairs, went piss, and stayed awake in my room for an hour until I fell back asleep. In the morning, my dad said he didn't hear any noises or bangs on the door, but did hear me yell something. But he thought he imagined it and didn't hear anything else after, so went back to sleep. My mom and my sister didn't even hear me, and I yelled at the top of my lungs.
Interestingly, I had something near identical happen to me when I was younger. I was awoken by 2 or 3 almighty loud bangs at my bedroom door. At first I thought it was my dad doing some DIY or something, but quickly realized that wasn't the case. I froze up in terror, thinking we had burglars. I was sweating. It was so dark I could hardly see my door. The atmosphere in my room felt cold and suffocating, like there was a presence of sorts. I got the urge to turn a light on and finally mustered the courage to move and turn my lamp on. I remained still for what seemed like ages, slowly regaining my confidence, then finally going to investigate. I went to wake my dad and tell him someone was in the house. He got all angry, grabbed a staff, and went downstairs. Nothing to be seen. Parents laughed at me and went back to bed. I was left very confused. I still wonder whether I imagined it all, perhaps. One thing I've noticed is much of the paranormal experiences I've had happen just before the break of dawn. This includes bad dreams, night terrors, sleep paralysis, loud noises, demonic voices, sometimes coming from me, and UFO-like activity outside my bedroom. Odd electronic humming sounds. Once daylight breaks and the birds start singing, a great peace fills my heart and I feel safe.
Be 7 or 8 years old, wake up in the middle of the night with a very odd feeling in my chest and head, breathing heavy, feeling in my head like my brain is pulsing. Can't really describe this feeling. Always slept with the radio on. The pulsing in my head and feeling in my chest seemed to be in sync with the beat of the pop music playing. Extremely uncomfortable feeling. At this point my memory is fuzzy. I may have still been asleep, but I felt awake. Sit up in bed. Feel presence sitting on my bed with me. Loft bed, like a bunk bed without a bottom bunk, desk and dresser underneath instead. For some reason begin a conversation with an entity sitting in my bed with me. Cannot see it. It would be at the end of my bed in the dark corner of the room, a deep shadow. Have no recollection of what was discussed, but it felt like it went on for hours. It became an argument of some kind, distinctly remembering debating back and forth. Becoming very frustrated and tired, wanting to go back to sleep. Whatever it is won't leave. Becoming very angry now. Had enough. Yell for my older brother to come to my room. He's asleep in the room next to mine. He comes in and I ask him to make him leave my room. Point to the corner of my bed. Make him go. Brother tells me there's no one there. Argue with my brother about it a little. Eventually he makes me leave the room and sleep with him in his room. This was like 4 a.m., just a few hours before we had to get up for school. Just recently my brother mentioned this event to me. I hadn't thought about it in many years. He said I was wide awake and sitting completely upright in bed, talking to him very clearly and eerily calm. Told me that it absolutely terrified him and still gives him the chills when he remembers it.
I'm a Brit, and I used to live in a Jacobean house. House is over 400 years old. There must have been tons of people to die there over the years. Nothing spooky has really ever happened to me, but my mum has seen a lot of weird shit. Mum walks upstairs one day, sees bathroom mirror, one of those ones with the adjustable bendy necks, balancing perfectly on the top of the stairs. She regularly sees orbs floating around through walls. One time, found a bloodied razor blade in her bathroom sink. Once, I found my toothbrush on the landing. Everyone claimed they hadn't moved it. There is also a rarely used second living room, which we have a sofa bed in. Everyone who sleeps in this room has terrible nightmares and sleep paralysis. Have had to go downstairs and wake up mum or dad when they've been shouting in their sleep because they've been sleeping in this room. Mum said she had a dream that something clattered down the chimney, while Dad said something sat on his chest. Sister has burst into tears once because she was poked in the shoulder by an invisible hand while sitting watching TV. Old guy from the village visited the house once and said he saw a little boy sitting on the stairs. Kind of said jokingly he thinks we're haunted. Also, the village I used to live in was an airfield in World War II. There's a ghost of a US airman who died in an accident who roams the fields and woods at night, dressed in his overalls. I normally feel at home in the woods, but there's something off-putting about these ones. They were used to store the planes, so they'd be hidden from German attacks. I've explored them a few times as there's still a few flooded-out bunkers. Everything in the woods feels close, and there's very little bird song.
Laying in bedroom, second story, around 1 a.m. Hear a repeating cooing from my open window, about 10 feet away, outside. There's a parking lot over there, whatever. The cooing continues. Another sound starts up, very low-pitched mantra. Sounds like it has something to do with the cooing, but not. Mantra gets louder and louder and louder, to the point where I'm sitting up in my bed. What the hell? Why does it sound like it's coming from inside my room? Super menacing low-pitched voice still going. Sounds like it's 5 feet away in the left corner. What the fuck is going on? Close my window. Put on some loud, ignorant music. Go to sleep. I know for a fact that a voice was coming from inside my room. Either that or whoever was messing with me was a very good ventriloquist. The words were not English.
For the past few years, I've had hallucinations, not sure if that's technically what they are, during the middle of the night. I'll be sleeping and then all of a sudden, I open my eyes and see, hear, or feel something. Usually I hallucinate insects hovering over and touching my face. A huge spider, wasps, gnats. It's pretty terrifying because there is no indication that they are not real, except the fact that I can no longer sense them after a few seconds of waking up. This one time disturbed me for a few nights afterwards. Be me sleeping soundly, home from college for summer break. Only people home are me and Dad. Woken up by Dad saying, "Anon, anon, anon," in a very frantic voice. Wake up replying, what, freaking out. Hear banging on the front door and footsteps in the living room. Meanwhile, I'm still in my room, which is the furthest from the front door. Half awake, I somehow know for sure that we are getting broken into. I can't hear Dad anymore, so I panic, assuming he is dead and has had his throat cut. I grab the handgun Dad has me keep in my room and creep towards his room on the other side of the dark, quiet house. Contemplate locking myself in the bathroom, but my little sister was in the room next to mine, so I couldn't leave her to die. Stand in his open doorway and try to listen for breathing and footsteps when my dad wakes up, confused and scared because I'm in his doorway with a gun. Breakdown, crying with relief. Has this ever happened to anyone? It was one of the most harrowing moments of my entire life. I kept thinking to myself, Dad is dead, and truly believed it. Is this mental illness? It made me scared I will someday hurt myself or someone else while thinking they are a threat. Sorry if this is hard to understand. I don't post often.
Might want to see a therapist about that. Might also want to give the handgun up until you get your head cleared. Don't want to kill a family member in a moment of panic.
This is how my neighbor told me I was right all along. I dreamt that my neighbor came to my door with his coffee pot. "Anon, I thought you were dead," I said. "I am," looked over to a spot on the floor, and then walked away to go down the stairs. When I woke up, I eat breakfast and saw the coroner's van pull up to my building. My neighbor actually was dead. He'd been dead for 2.5 weeks, barricaded in a storage room. He was just starting to smell as it was very cool there. He cut himself with a shard of the coffee pot. The storage room was a direct line through the spot he looked on the floor, 3 stories down. I even mapped the geometry because I thought I was imagining details, but it really was a straight line to his body. My eyes are set at the same height as my neighbor's were, so I think that's the only reason I figured out that line. He would have been found earlier if the police actually canvassed the building when he was declared missing.
Like many people, I have had experiences with sleep paralysis almost all my life. But what happened to me 6 months ago felt completely different. Be me, 25 years old. Working on my master's thesis got me pretty stressed. Go to sleep one night pretty late, 4 a.m. or so. At that time of my life, I had trouble sleeping, plus I had a runny nose and congestion. Whenever I have troubles breathing while sleeping, I always have sleep paralysis, and that night it was not different. When the sleep paralysis kicked in, I was near the edge of my bed, so I thought, if I rolled to the side, maybe the fall would awake me. I did that. It worked. However, something felt odd. When I looked around my room, everything felt darker, but not like total black. The best I can describe it is like when you augment the contrast on a TV. I thought, maybe I'm still asleep. But everything in my room was exactly the way it was before I went to sleep. What do I mean? Whenever I get aware that I'm dreaming, it's because I realize something is different from a known surrounding. Like if I'm in my kitchen, the stove is where the sink is supposed to be, or the sink is in the fridge's place, etc. But not this time. My TV was on the same wall, my Gundams on the dressing table. Even a bunch of unwashed clothes remained at the corner of my bed. I decided to go outside, so I walked near the door of my room. Before going out, I thought, if this is a dream, it means that I can do whatever I want, like flying. I jump, achieve the same height as if I do it right now. I decided to take another look around my room. When my sight gets to my bed, for a slight moment I got a glimpse of some sort of bulge lying on my bed in the exact same place I use for sleeping. Half seconds later, I open up my eyes and realize I didn't move a single centimeter from my bed. Now I'm even more confused. I think I had some kind of accidental astronomical travel. It never happened to me before, and has not happened since then.
Narcoleptic here. This is a perfect example of my sleep paralysis experiences combined with REM disturbance and hypnagogic hallucinations. I describe my experiences I have every night like the movie series Insidious. Everything is the same. It's just dark and wrong, but identical and lifelike. In my worst dreams, I can recall referencing real-time YouTube videos playing on my comp as I sleep, and other detail-specific things. But then it melts into sheer horror. The feeling of benevolent presence and hallucinations of being touched and dragged off my bed. In some dreams I also walk around and recall immaculate odd details about my surroundings, but it's just a hyper-real dream. Just the complexity of the neurotransmitter orexin, or the lack thereof. If you experience sleep paralysis frequently, I'd consider getting a sleep study done if you have good insurance. It was one of my first clues of having a degenerative sleep disease.
The scariest shit that happened recently to me was a couple of months back. I almost had a heart attack. But to be honest, at the end it had such a dumb and mundane explanation. Nothing paranormal. Middle of the night. Everyone is sleeping in my tiny apartment. Wife, baby, and mother-in-law. Suddenly we all hear loud banging at the door and a woman crying. Everybody is now awake and like WTF is that? The woman crying starts to yell my wife's name at the top of her lungs. All this is happening in like 5 seconds. My half-slept self was trying to rationalize everything. Then I recognized the voice. Open the door, and there she is. It's an old friend of my wife who is an alcoholic. Drunk, having a meltdown. Baby is crying, mother-in-law is terrified, and my wife is pissed. I tell her to leave. She used to be my wife's roommate back in the day. She was a drunk mess. Then my wife moved in with me, and the drunk moved to another city. She moved back to our town at the moment all this happened, visited us to meet our baby, and then she proceeded to pull this shit a week later.
This story happened over a couple days at my summer camp. The real spoopy stuff happened to the boys in the cabin next door, so I'll tell it through a few perspectives. I remember bits and pieces, but was told the full story a few years later. Be me 12-year-old camper. Second oldest cabin because it was only little kids that generally came that week, so everyone was moved up. All the boys' cabins are connected, divided by shitty plywood filled with holes, can hear and see pretty much everything happening next door. Next to us is the oldest boys' cabin. They're typical edgy 14 and 15-year-olds. Second day they start pretending to summon Satan. Good meme for a while. They draw pentagrams on walls, make pentagrams out of sticks. Hear them talking about a big one in the woods they made out of logs. The shrine, they call it. They keep this shit up all night talking about the Dark Lord and demon names from Percy Jackson. Even though I knew the meme wasn't funny anymore. Third day they get really obsessive. They find a dead frog near the shrine. One of them picks at a mosquito bite until it bleeds, covers the frog in the human blood. Sneak it back to the cabin after the ritual. Keep it wrapped in Kleenex under one of their beds. Didn't tell any of the counselors for fear of getting in shit. One of the counselors wakes up, super pissed. Counselors were kind of aware of the Satan memes, but didn't know the extent. Counselor freaks out at the boys, looks kind of scared. Says someone woke him up in the middle of the night, put a hand on his shoulder and told him they were going to break his knees. Was half asleep, so couldn't tell who it was, but his voice was raspy. Counselors sleep in their own quarters, off limits to kids. None of us are stupid enough to go in there. We figure either we're getting pranked by a counselor or one of us had taken the meme a little far and woke him up. That's when we realized the frog is gone. Few knew about the frog offering, and they were all in the cabin. Frog wasn't found in any of the garbage cans. Only explanation is it was flushed, but the plumbing is so shit that it can't even handle a napkin and would have clogged. Spook level goes to DEFCON 3. Another day passes. No creepy shit all day. Satan memes become secret. Only really a few of the older kids are involved now. Get really intense. More sacrifices at the shrine. Bugs, frogs, one big old slug that someone found inside a log. Bedtime. A pentagram is etched into the center of the table in the cabin with a butter knife someone stole from the dining hall. The next morning, a counselor from the youngest boy's cabin comes to talk. Looks distraught. Someone was in the cabin last night. Didn't believe it at first. Someone asked their brother who was in the youngest cabin and he could confirm. In the middle of the night, one of the kids got up to piss and saw a figure. Just standing there. Classic creepy guy description. Just a silhouette, all black. Big black hoodie concealing face. Kid just froze with fear and didn't do anything. Other kids started waking up, stayed in bunks, freaked out. Breaking Greentext, but the youngest cabin is the only one that doesn't have a counselor quarters, so the counselor has to sleep out in the open with the kids. The counselor wakes up too, sees whatever has appeared in their cabin. He's close enough that he can reach out to touch him. Counselor reaches his hand out, fingers about to touch his coat. The thing disappears, just evaporates. Like 3 kids and counselor can confirm this spectacle. Counselor who saw it isn't the type to fuck around or prank us. Spook level at DEFCON 2. We try to close what's been opened, scratch out all the pentagrams, even the table 1 so it looks all messed up now. Destroy the shrine, burn logs in a campfire that night. Everyone's terrified that it might be too late. Ton of weird injuries all around camp that day. Not sure if it's got anything to do with it. It's like there's a curse on the camp now. The weird happenings seem to end after the logs from the shrine are burnt in the campfire that night. No one really sleeps that night. Uneventful for the next few days. Everyone kind of forgets about it. Normal, wholesome camp mischief for like 4 days. The end of the week approaches. There's a big camp-wide dance on the last night. We all come back from dance super tired. Kids get in before counselors. Someone lets out a shriek. We all look over to see what he's freaking out about. Blood. All over the fucking place. Big puddle on the floor and wall. No sign of a source. Way too much for a nosebleed. Looks like someone got slashed in here. Called camp director in. He was clueless as to what to do. We just mopped it up and carried on. Everyone huddled on the floor all night, terrified. Nothing else happened. That was the last hurrah of whatever entity was plaguing the cabin. Everyone left the next day. To this day, we're not allowed to tell the story at the camp because it's too real and scares the shit out of kids because some of them remember.
OK/X/hold on. Here it comes. B18 living with GF and 3 more roommates in an old house. 1 roommate. Kevin is a reclusive city worker and the other, Kate, is a sloppy drunk. Kevin's room is after Kate's. Kate's room stinks like cat piss. Meanwhile, standing in the kitchen with my girlfriend. Cabinets start opening and slamming shut all at the same time. WTF? They stop. My girlfriend is crying, myself very startled. We forget the experience after an hour, watch TV and sleep. Next day in the same kitchen. Footsteps upstairs even though no one's home. Everyone at work but me. These things cycle for about 3 days. Cabinets, footsteps repeat. Realize we haven't seen Kevin in a while. He's the only one who hasn't seen the ghost shit. Go to Kevin's room. Oh shit, Kevin's fucking dead.jpg. He heroed, and in the 86-degree summer heat we couldn't smell his rotting corpses past Kate's cat piss room. Kevin died the day the stuff started, and it all stopped the day his body was removed. Another more recent one that's less spooky. Backing out of driveway, check the rearview mirror, nobody, pull out a little. My girlfriend tells me to look out. Suddenly there's a meth out lady there. Wait for her to pass driveway, now pull out onto road. She starts to take out phone camera and taking a video of our apartment. Moves in slow motion. Weird. Drive to Canadian Tire. Children on the way there wave at us. A car randomly in the opposite lane honks to get our attention. WTF is going on today? My girlfriend tells me children in passing cars are staring at her with emotionless faces. Get freaked out and drive home.
Sometimes I'll have tinnitus attacks other people might know what I'm talking about, where all of a sudden you go mildly deaf in one or both ears and the tinnitus gets really loud, then it subsides. They have pretty suspect timing sometimes, sitting in my parents' basement playing guitar. Finish a song, set guitar down to take a piss, look up, shh. Tinnitus hits. Around the central pillar of the basement, I see a black 6-foot-tall blob of black. Fuzzy edges, I can tell it's looking at me. Vanishes around the corner. Sit there dumbstruck and realize I saw a shadow person. Blurt out, hey, you can listen, I don't mind. Then friends and I decided to go to Bunnyman Bridge just for shits and giggles. We get there, pitch dark, spooky but in a kitsch sort of Tim Burton way. Back in so the bridge is behind us. Don't feel any genuine spook, so I get out of the car. As soon as my foot touches the ground, I realize I made a huge mistake. Shh. Ignore it. Don't want to seem weak. So I walk around to the taillights and wait for my friends. Engine revs. I'm thrown onto the trunk, carried back under the bridge. Then the car moves forward, and I slide off the back. Sprint for the car, jump in the seat, proceed to yell at friend for hitting me with his car. Apparently they were about to get out, at which point they panicked because they looked forward and saw the bridge in front of them instead of behind them. In the confusion, they tried to back up away from the bridge, hit me, looked back and saw the bridge behind them, looked forward, saw that the bridge wasn't in front anymore, and floored it.
Creepiest thing. Living with parents, but they are out on vacation. Nighttime. Girlfriend over, making out. General sexy time going on, but she's not comfortable enough to get serious. She told me that when she was walking to the door from the driveway, she saw someone hiding behind a parked car, and when she noticed him, he ducked down behind it. We keep hearing noises from outside. Don't really believe that it's anything serious. Tell her she probably imagined it. Front door is visible from the living room where we're sitting. Have a frosted glass window. Notice the silhouette of a person in the frosted glass. Stare at it. It is definitely a person, standing directly in front of the frosted glass, probably trying to look inside. Get closer. The person quickly moves away from the window. Grab a knife from the kitchen and look through the second-floor window. Nobody there. Open door. Nobody there. Another creepy thing. Taking a bath. Door closed. Sitting in the tub for a while. Suddenly a fly appears, a large black housefly. It flies around the room silently for a few seconds. I stay still and watch it carefully because I want it to land nearby so I can squish it with a towel. It flies directly into my chest and disappears. Look around. It is nowhere to be seen. Another creepy thing. Moved into a new house with the same girl, now wife. Have old barbecue pit someone gave me in the backyard. Realize the barbecue sucks, all rusted, unusable. Push it right up against the gate to the backyard. Have it roll it along a gravel path. Quite heavy and difficult to move. Going to take it to the curb the next day and let the city dispose of it. That night, I woke up but don't know why. Wife is awake too. She is concerned. She said she heard a bang. Whatever, go to sleep. Next morning, go to the backyard to move the barbecue to the front curb. Garden gate is dented. Vine trellis torn down. Flowers trampled. The barbecue moved a few feet away. Someone had tried to open the gate, quite roughly, hit the barbecue and couldn't get it open, climbed over the fence and messed up the flower bed, then pushed the barbecue away from the gate.
One night, my wife and I were in the living room watching TV. I had been slightly aware of a slow kind of squeaking noise for a couple of minutes, but it never fully entered my consciousness. Then my wife said she thought someone was at the door and it sounded like they were opening and closing it. I went to the window and shone my phone light through, and sure enough, there was someone between the screen door and outer door. I had the immediate feeling that I knew this person, but I couldn't place her. She looked up at me with a somewhat impatient look on her face as if to say, "What is taking you so long?" She appeared to be in her mid-40s, had brown hair, and seemed kind of off. I went around the wall to the door and peeked through the small glass window at the top. She was looking up at me as if to say, "Open the door already." I went for the doorknob as an almost reflex, but stopped because I suddenly had an ill feeling come over me. I subconsciously sensed danger. I took another look at her through the window and said, "Do I know you?" "Oh, now we're going to play these games," she said. "What do you want? What is your name?" I said. She got angry and told me to open the door. Now I fully sensed something was off. I sensed evil. "Tell me your name and what you want, or I'm calling the police." "Open the door!" she yelled. I yelled back that I was calling the police and went for my phone. I ordered my wife to make sure all the doors and windows were locked. The police came but were unable to find her. The creepy part was that I had the strong feeling that I knew her, but didn't. That mixed with the fact that she seemed to be trying to will me to open the door, and the evil I sensed really creeped me out. Probably just a drunk lady that got the wrong house, but it really shook me anyway.
I don't know if this will sound creepy to you, but it terrified me for some reason. Once I saw a square in my office when I was at work. I don't know the right name for my job in English, but I'm a personal chef at a company. I also do some things on the side for them when there is nothing for me to do. That day I was working on an app for the company's employees to use. Just 20 minutes working on Android Studio. Start feeling weird, kind of how your body feels when you are in a place with very loud music, like a metal concert or something. This goes on for at least 10 minutes. I think I may be tired. Decide to stand up and walk around the office. I stand up and I see this weird thing. It was a gray square thing, small, about 30 centimeters tall. Its texture looked like a tarp, and the thing was perfectly square. Not a cube, a square. It had a shadow too. I look at it for a moment, and for some reason I start shaking. I feel like I need to run away from this thing. Then it just slides into the corner of the room and disappears, going through the brick wall. It looked like it was clipping through it. Never seen or heard anything like that before or since, only told a couple of friends.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.